Hello guys, welcome back to the TFD family. This is Albo, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Cordy isn't able to host today's video because she's having some trouble with her throat and can't speak properly at the moment. She's resting, and hopefully will be back very soon. Until then, I'll be taking over and keeping things going. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into today's video. So, this is Dark Side Salute. The WNBA is walking a tightrope right now, and it all comes down to Caitlin Clark. Nancy Lieberman sat down with Pete Sousa to break down just how much the league's future is tied to one player, and why the WNBA can't afford to take her for granted. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player anymore. She's the engine driving ticket sales, TV ratings, and merchandise revenue across the entire league. Nancy Lieberman made it clear, if Caitlin Clark, knock on wood, ever goes down with a serious injury, the fallout won't be small. Attendance drops, ratings drop, and sponsors start asking hard questions. But here's the real kicker. When the WNBA's next media rights negotiation rolls around, networks aren't going to hand over the same kind of money without Caitlin Clark drawing eyeballs. Pete Sousa pushed back a little, asking whether the WNBA is doing enough to protect its biggest asset, both on and off the court. Nancy Lieberman didn't hold back her opinion, warning that the league needs to think long-term, not just chase this year's headlines. Let's take a listen to what she had to say next.
Do we need a David Stern-type figure to kind of help Kathy Engelbert here to rein this in, the situation with just officiating Caitlin Clark? Like, what's the solution there?
Well, I don't know if I have a solution for you, and I'm not in the business of, telling Kathy what to do. That's her job. But look back at 1984 when Michael Jordan came in the league, and obviously there was a changing of the guard. Not only did he change the economics, what he did, he filled up arenas. There's very few people in our sports world that have never played to an empty seat. Michael Jordan has never played to an empty seat. He's always taken his talents to another city where they don't sell out, and that was their sellout game of the year. This is what Caitlin Clark has brought to the WNBA, whether people like it or not. She's the economic engine, like Tiger Woods was in the early 90s for the PGA, for ratings, for attendance, for sponsorships, and everybody benefited from it. Trust me, I did my job. Maybe I didn't move the needle because we didn't have the media, and I had 99.9% of the media attention in the 80s going into the 90s. Okay, then you have like the Tarasis and the Kitchings and the Birds and all those, great players, Sylvia Fowles. They moved the needle. Every generation has moved the needle. Nobody came into the WNBA with the fan base of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. There's no doubt that A'ja Wilson is the best player in the world with the MVPs and all her championships and what she's done. But she didn't move the needle as much as these young ladies. There's, in my opinion, if Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese do not, or you don't know about them, the $2.2 billion deal with marketing rights doesn't happen. The jet doesn't happen. Maybe for Brittany, because Brittany was a different situation, Brittany Griner, with what she went in and she needed protection. So if somebody is lifting the tide for all boats, it's okay. Most of the women, I said last year, I thought there were like 15 millionaires in the WNBA. Most people didn't know it. Every one of the kids, the players that are signing contracts now, if they continue to play hard, they're going to be multimillionaires. And the good news is that this generation are pioneers. They don't know it yet. There's a 2-year-old that none of us know that in 20 years is going to be making $10 or $15 million a year to play basketball in the WNBA. It's just part of the ecosystem. So we shouldn't be jealous of each other. We should, continue to compete like hell, try to win, do great things. But I think the league has work to do. The referees have got to understand the Jordan rules. David Stern, he put a stop to that.
What Detroit was doing, and eventually Riley's Knicks, you couldn't just, literally, Michael Jordan was not a battering ram, Eventually they stopped that.
Well, because I don't know the inner workings of that, but it did stop dramatically. And I say, look, you have to there's great officials in the WNBA. But at some point, you have got to say, ladies, this is how we're going to officiate this game. I'm going to tell you, my team, Detroit Shock, my first year coaching, we had the first brawl in WNBA history. Matter of fact, I had the first fight in WNBA history. So there could be a little thread going on here. And I haven't gone to finishing school yet, but I'm thinking about it. So I said to the official, there was a gal on Cleveland. I forget her name. She played at Georgia. And I had Cindy Brown, my player, my star. I said, just throw them both out of the game. I stood next to her on the sideline and I said, this is not going to be a good thing. I know my player and I know their player. They hate each other. About 2 possessions later, there it goes. 2 6'3", 6'4" gals going at it. All the benches cleared. It was such a bad brawl that I think one of the officials got hit by a swinging fist. I looked at the referee and I said, you could have stopped this, but you chose not to. So I admire the officials because we're not going to get it right as coaches. We're not going to always get it right as players. You're not going to always get it right as officials. Stop it before it happens. I mean,
Yeah, that's such a difficult job, officiating. So I'm not here taking their inventory, and obviously neither are you. But it seems as though they could use a little direction. Here's my last question for you, because I've kept you long enough. I had Rick Barry on the show not too long ago, a transformational player, much like yourself. And there was almost a different set of circumstances. Rick in the ABA was knocked around a lot. I know you were knocked around a lot playing with dudes and also playing with other women professionally and in the Olympics. What kind of advice do you give someone like Caitlin Clark? Like, how does she withstand this brutality and continue to rise above and do what she's there to do, which is perform tremendously as a basketball player?
You know what? It depends on what side. Do you like Caitlin Clark? Do you not like Caitlin Clark? It's become so muddled, the waters, and people just our society. The WNBA is mirroring society. Okay, I mean, this is not part and parcel, just to the WNBA. Caitlin, who is a friend, is either going to have to keep getting bigger, stronger, and the referees are going to have to get better. They don't have to protect her. They don't have to protect anybody in the league. But you know your people. Like, people are like picking on Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah.
She's been in the MVP voting for like the last 3 years or so.
People have no idea. These people that are parachuting in, they have no clue.
The fans. She is such a good player. She was on the Olympic team. You know what? There was Charles Oakley. There was Alonzo Mourning. There was Dennis Rodman. There was Anthony Mason.
Yeah.
There were guys in all sports who I was a bully.
Enforcers.
I was a superstar, but I was physical. I initiated fights. I'm so happy there's no cameras when I played as many in those arenas. She's a very physical player. You know this. So her reputation is going to precede her that she's a physical player. Maybe everybody's looking at that one play where it looked bad because, her hand is on Caitlin's throat. I don't know. I really like her. And maybe in hindsight, you don't just lay on the kid that long. You just, she's on the ground, she's on her back, just get up. But she didn't. And, everybody's going to use this as a polarizing point where it just, we have to do better. There is going to be physicality in the game, but everybody can't beat the crap out of each other, and nobody has been knocked around more than Caitlin Clark. Yeah. I mean, so all you're doing, when she plays, it's still truth. Ratings soar.
Yeah, is there resentment because of that, you think?
Yeah, it's human nature, to have resentment. I mean, there are still people from the 80s that, Nancy was just trying to get marketing deals, and Nancy was trying to market herself. Yeah, I was poor. You're right. I was trying to market myself. I needed a shoe deal. I needed a ball deal. I needed a book deal. I didn't grow up in your family. And there were people who resented me, who were jealous of me because the popularity, and that's not my fault. That's not my fault. I did my job as a player. She's done her job as a player. She's broken records. She's trying to, get her team to a championship level, but she can't do it by herself. I mean, just look at what Mitchell has done. I think she's still their leading scorer. Yeah. Every time I watch her, I marvel at her. Look at Aliyah Boston. I went up to see Caitlin maybe 6 months ago in the off season before she went to the U.S. Tryouts, and those gals were in the gym every day working with their coaches. And I sat there for 2 days. They were putting in the work, and so it's one player cannot win a game. Okay, you might have a great game, but to be a champion, you have to have 2 or 3 players who are studs, and then you have to have a great support staff, and then you have to have a Sophie Cunningham. She makes me laugh. I love her.
Hey, we love you. Thank you so much, Nancy Lieberman.
Look, this isn't complicated. Every major sports league that's ever gotten serious needed a David Stern-type figure at the top, somebody who wasn't afraid to be disliked. But here's the problem. The WNBA players, their coaches, and honestly, a chunk of their fan base are so soft right now that the moment somebody actually walks in and tries to bring order to this league, real structure, real professionalism, real accountability, the players and coaches are going to crash out. They're going to cry foul. They're going to call it an attack on the culture. So yes, they need a David Stern-type figure, but understand what David Stern actually was. David Stern rolled with an iron fist. He had a bully pulpit and he used it. He fined people. He suspended people. He didn't care who liked him because his job wasn't to be liked. His job was to build a league that could survive on its own 2 feet. The WNBA doesn't have that. What the WNBA has is somebody who needs to go like this with them. Soft hands, careful words, don't ruffle any feathers. And luckily for them, that's exactly what they've got in Cathy Engelbert. Cathy Engelbert goes like this. Oh, here, come here, let me pat you on the back. Let me smooth this over. Let me issue a statement that offends nobody. They have exactly the person they want. Whether that's the person they need is a completely different conversation. Let's go back to basics for a second because people forget this way too fast. The WNBA before Caitlin Clark played in front of tons of empty seats, more empty seats than seats with actual people sitting in them, night after night, arena after arena. And look, you can have all the talent in the world. Talent alone means nothing if you don't move the needle, if you're not exciting, if you're not must-see, if you don't have people willing to spend their time and their hard-earned cash to sit down and watch you play. All of that talent is fine and dandy, but it doesn't equal a business. It just doesn't. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA wasn't a business. It was a collection of incredibly skilled women that played basketball in mostly empty arenas. If you wanted to see it, sure, you could go see it, but there was no actual money being generated at scale. Once Caitlin Clark came into this league, suddenly there's actual money being made. Suddenly it resembles a real professional league with real stakes. Agreed, and I'll take it a step further. The $2.2 billion media rights deal does not happen without her. This new CBA deal does not happen without her. And look, we don't really need to keep attaching Angel Reese to this conversation like she's carrying equal weight. I know you want to be diplomatic about this, Nancy, but CC by herself is doing more for this league's actual bottom line than most rosters combined. Angel Reese's fans, and I'll say this plainly, are largely social media fans. They follow, they click likes on pictures, they engage online. That's real. That matters for brand value, sure, but they're not the people showing up and selling out arenas. They're not the people buying jerseys in bulk. They're not the people sitting down in their living room every single night to watch a full basketball game start to finish. That's just not that fan base, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anybody. Only if Caitlin Clark stays healthy. I'll say it twice because it matters that much. Only if Caitlin Clark stays healthy. I don't know, Nancy. I'm honestly not sure where this league goes if that changes. But there's a very high possibility, and I mean a real, tangible possibility, that this current CBA deal ends up being the best CBA deal the NBA ever sees in its history. And the deal that follows this one could be significantly worse, because that next media rights negotiation isn't going to be nearly as lucrative if the biggest draw in the sport isn't consistently on the floor. There's an argument to be made there, and it's not a fringe argument. Meanwhile, the league office doesn't control the physicality of the game, doesn't control the swings in officiating from game to game. They're incompetent in that regard. They're out of touch with what's actually protecting their product. But I do believe when it comes to the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark specifically, there's an unspoken script in play. Certain calls that aren't supposed to be made, certain things officials are told not to call, all to allow a certain physical style of play to continue being played against her. Nancy, going back to what she said about Alyssa Thomas, I'm a little confused, honestly. Friend or acquaintance? Because with friends, you're you're expected to tell the hard truth. With acquaintances, you kind of have to tiptoe a little, if you want to preserve that relationship. But friends, Nancy, if she's genuinely your friend, you should have told her a long time ago that she's the reason for the season. 10 million times by now, somebody should have sat her down and said it plainly. Without her, the viewership drops, the attendance drops, the sponsorship dollars dry up. I would hope so, right? If you two are actually friends, somebody in her corner should be letting her know the reality she's living in, whether she wants to hear it or not. And that doesn't change whether she's parachuting in from a college phenomenon or not. The numbers are the numbers. Alyssa Thomas being in MVP conversations means nada to me, plain and simple. She was never a real MVP candidate, not in any year that mattered. Just because your name gets mentioned in a conversation doesn't mean you were ever actually in contention. That means nada. And that's not her fault individually, that's on all of them collectively. Step up the game, get in the gym, stop complaining like Tyasha Harris, talking about needing a day off. Use that day off to put in actual work and get better. Stop being like Satu Sabali, publicly saying you only put in 1 hour a day during the off-season. Put in the actual work, improve. It's not Caitlin's fault she's better than you, it's on you. Work harder, work smarter, get better. Great support staff. Great support staff. Something Caitlin Clark simply does not have over there in Indiana. Whether people want to admit it or not, whether people want to stay delusional about this fact, she doesn't have the support staff in Indiana that A'ja Wilson has out in Las Vegas. That's a fact, not really a controversial statement at all. She doesn't have the support staff in Indiana that Nafisa Kalir has up in Minnesota. That's a fact, not a controversial statement. She doesn't have the support staff that Breanna Stewart has with the New York Liberty. Again, that's a fact, not a controversial statement. It's just the roster reality. The NBA must adjust to Caitlin Clark. You cannot keep knocking her out, beating her over the head, risking serious injury to the golden goose of this entire league. Because if you do, the money is going to dry up fast. And all those millionaires certain players think are going to be rolling down the pipeline behind this new CBA, they're not coming. They're not going to come without her. I said this earlier and I still believe it fully. There's a very real world where this ends up being the best CBA deal the NBA ever sees, because the next time the media rights come up, the next time the broadcast companies sit back down at that table, they are not going to be nearly as willing to offer this kind of money again. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Like the video and subscribe to the channel.